Seeing how the power of the Antichrist spreads, we can only pray that the Lord grants us strong shepherds who will defend his church against evil in this dark hour. Benedict XVI. These words come from private correspondence of Pope Benedict XVI. Today, we will discuss the letter from which this fragment originates. This letter revealed that Benedict XVI deeply believed that we are living in the times of the Antichrist. We will also explore what St. Paul said about the signs that will indicate the Antichrist is already among us. Like this video now and subscribe to the channel to help spread this warning to as many people as possible. Your support means so much. Pope Benedict XVI resigned from the position of head of the Church in 2013. Interestingly, on the day of this event, just hours after Benedict's resignation, lightning struck St. Peter's Basilica. Many considered this an apocalyptic sign that something ominous was happening in the Vatican. It is also worth noting that Pope Benedict XVI was highly respected in conservative circles. However, he was less popular among governments and the European Union. This creates a situation starkly different from today, with Pope Francis as the current head of the Church. What is the story of this letter, and what did the retired Pope include in it? The letter was addressed to Slovak politician Vladimir Palko, who made this correspondence public only years later. The letter was written in 2015, 2 years after Benedict's abdication, and during the pontificate of Pope Francis. As a result, many interpret the content of this letter as suggesting that Benedict believed Pope Francis was the Antichrist. Personally, I can understand this line of reasoning, and certainly, Francis is an extremely controversial figure. However, we cannot know if this is what Benedict meant. We can speculate that he sought to convey the increasing presence of signs heralding the end times and the emergence of the Antichrist's power in our world. It's significant that Benedict XVI passed away on December 31, 2022, the feast day of Saint Sylvester. Why is this intriguing? Because Saint Sylvester was the Bishop of Rome in the 4th century, a position equivalent to the Pope. Almost all of his predecessors on the papal throne were martyred or persecuted by the Roman Empire. At that time, being a Christian was illegal, and believers were thrown to the lions. This changed during Sylvester's papacy, when Emperor Constantine the Great converted to Christianity, established a good relationship with the Church, and achieved unity. Constantine gifted the Church many significant sites, including St. Peter's Basilica, specifically to Sylvester. Benedict XVI's death on this day might symbolize the end of an era that lasted for centuries. The coincidence of these dates appears truly remarkable and symbolic. Let us return to the fragment of Benedict's letter. Seeing how the power of the Antichrist spreads, we can only pray that the Lord grants us strong shepherds who will defend his church against evil in this dark hour. Benedict XVI suggests in these words that the church and the followers of Jesus will be under attack. He emphasizes the need for strong shepherds, implying clergy capable of defending their flock. Dr. Taylor Marshall, in his analysis of this letter, believes that Benedict was pointing out that we are living in times of cowardly clergy. We have witnessed decades of sins and even heinous crimes within the ranks of the clergy, committed by those who call themselves shepherds, which is a cruel irony. Those who knew Pope Benedict XVI well say, he was a person who carefully thought out and weighed his words. When asked a question, Benedict would pause, reflect, and then give a precisely considered answer. It is logical to assume, then, that the words he wrote in this letter were even more carefully considered. Nothing was written lightly, especially in his case. So when he wrote about the spreading power of the Antichrist in our world, it was not a metaphor. These were carefully chosen words, and we must assume he meant exactly what he wrote. The Antichrist is already among us and continues his work. Let us now consider the words of St. Paul. His vision of the approaching end times was presented very clearly. In the second letter to the Thessalonians, we read, "Let no one deceive you in any way. For that day will not come unless the rebellion comes first and the man of lawlessness is revealed, the son of destruction, who opposes and exalts himself against every so-called God or object of worship, so that he takes his seat in the temple of God, proclaiming himself to be God. Do you not remember that when I was still with you I told you these things?" This passage aligns perfectly with the quoted fragment of the former Pope's letter. Without delving into the complexities of translation from Greek, the language in which Paul wrote his letter, we can interpret this passage as follows: in times when the entire world already knows about Jesus and his teachings, faith and Christian culture will begin to crumble. People's faith will weaken, and they will turn away from it. The Bible says that when Jesus comes again, there will be only a small remnant of the faithful left on earth. Why? Because there will be the aforementioned rebellion or apostasy, depending on the translation. Only then will the Antichrist, referred to by Paul as the man of lawlessness, the son of destruction, fully reveal himself. But how will we know it is the Antichrist? What signs will indicate his presence? It will not be a secret when he manifests himself. St. Paul writes, "He will take his seat in the temple of God, proclaiming himself to be God. He will declare himself God, placing himself above all that is holy." Another sign will be the reconstruction of the Jerusalem temple by the Antichrist. Did you know that the number 666 appears not only in Revelation but also once in the Old Testament? It states that King Solomon, the son of David, received 666 talents of gold annually. The only person in the Bible associated with the number of the beast is the one who introduced idolatry to Jerusalem. It was Solomon who built the temple that the Antichrist will rebuild in the end times. Of course, he will not rebuild it for the glory of God but for his own glory, placing himself above all divinity and holiness. Let us consider whether we see such a sign happening in the world right now. No, not yet. But if we look closely at Benedict's letter, we see that he does not write that the Antichrist has already appeared. He writes about the power of the Antichrist spreading across the world, not about the Antichrist himself. Perhaps we are on the brink of discovering his identity, in the chapter preceding the true end times. What is your opinion on this matter? Are we living in the end times? Share your thoughts in the comments and share this video with those you wish to warn. Wishing you a blessed